Welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. I am Ben Tuyene, one of the co-hosts of this podcast. And as you know, we've sort of developed this podcast to help practices that are so tangled up with insurance. We talk about topics that help you take more control, create a bigger, better, and brighter future for you, your patients, and of course, your team members. Today, we're going to have a fun conversation with my co-host and dear friend, Naren. Naren, how's it going today, my friend?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Very good. Excellent. I see that the topic here that we're going to be discussing is working on the business versus working in the business, which is, when you really think about it, it's a thought-provoking topic, working on the business versus working in it. So first question I have for you, Naren, is what do you mean by working on the business versus working in the business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Working in the business is you being a technician. For example, as a dentist, perhaps the work you do in dentistry, that's absolutely working in the business. To some degree, I would also argue management is working in the business. For example, hiring people. You're always hiring people because somebody quits or your team grows. So that is, in my mind, working in the business. You just have to hire people or paying people. You're working in the business. Why every single month you have to pay them? So the way I think of working on the business is things you can do that makes your business better. What do you mean by that, right? So if you look at successful practices, better means, more revenue, better means more profits, better means patients who love you, perhaps hundreds and hundreds of five-star Google reviews because you are so relationship focused and you figured out how to do that at scale. So you create the process, think through how you're going to, create a practice that is relationship driven, and you just do that initial investment. Remember, like anything else, like going to, uni, right? I bet your first year was challenging, right? Because you're learning new things you never did. So you have to push yourself, do new things you never did before. So anything that's all about making your business better is working in the business.
Yeah, no, that's excellent.
And
Or,
I want to
yeah,
kind of comment on something. The
yeah.
person I think who brought this to my attention is a gentleman by the name of Michael Gerber. He wrote a book called E-Myth, and there are series of books that came after it, E-Myth Revisited, etc., etc. I even had a pleasure of like going to Michael's home. He lives close to San Diego, in a hilly region, beautiful, beautiful home, and spend like 2 to 3 days with him. So I would go to his house and spend time talking to him. He's a brilliant guy, and of course he didn't have a lot of education, but he really learned as an entrepreneur, as a business person, a lot of things. And the title is E-Myth, the entrepreneurial myth. And usually the story he shares is a lot of people start out as a technician, right? Dentist, you know how to do something. You're a technician, you're good at it. But then you're like, I don't want to work for the man. I want to, have my own, business, control my own, life, decide when I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, uh, you know, also create wealth. So you decide to go on this journey of building an entrepreneur. But there are a lot of skills that entrepreneurs have or develop over time that technicians don't, that workers
Mm.
don't. Of course, working on the business is one of those skills. Like you are working on the things to make your business better.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I can see him here online. He has actually several books out there. The E-Myth Revisited and E-Myth in general seems to be the most popular theme for him. So would you say that his book is, working on the business focus rather than in the business?
Yeah, I think he really makes you aware of this different type of work because a lot of times we just do things. We get wake up in the morning, go to the office, and do things. At least for me, what he did is he got me conscious of realizing there are two type of activities I can do, and the better ones are working on the business. So if you want your business to be bigger, more successful, worth more 2 years from now, you should spend more and more of your time working on the business. If you want to just keep going and the same way you were last year and perhaps even get weaker, then keep spending all your time working in the business. So I find successful people spend more time working on the business.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a perfect topic for dentistry, where, at least in private practice, you have a single doctor that does everything, right? Especially, there's a lot of dentists these days that don't even have hygienists, and they don't want, they don't want to go that path, for whatever reason, and they're sort of comfortable doing their own hygiene and restorative work. And you do tend to find that the bottleneck for the businesses are, a function of the lack of working on the business, right? And your company is probably a good one to sort of look at too, Naren. Like I know that you run a company that's been around for 20 plus years, and you have more than 250 plus full-time team members. Tell us how you spend your time on running your business, Naren.
Yeah, I know this was hard for me early days, but I realized every minute I spend working on the business makes the business stronger, makes the business bigger, makes the business more successful. So over time, I have kind of spent less and less time working in the business and more time working on the business. So today, I would argue maybe 10 hours is working in the business, and the rest of the time is working on the business. Of course, I can do that because, like you said, we have 250 plus people and lots of managers and lots of people to take care of the day to day. Of course, you may not be able to, only give 10 hours to working, in the business, and give the rest of the hours to working on the business, because that might be not possible. You may not have a large team like mine, and you may not have a lot of senior managers who have been there and done things for a long time. So you might have to spend more time. That's okay. I think the key is you should start becoming conscious of this and start increasing the amount of time you're spending working on the business. In the beginning, it could be just uh, 5 hours a week, and perhaps a few years down the road it could be like even an entire day, or maybe even a day and a half. So and I also know practice owners who spend a lot more time than that. So some of them don't practice dentistry at all. They are working on the business 90% of the time. So I've seen the whole spectrum. So yeah, I do think, if you really if you are a person who want your future to be better than your past, if you're a person who just doesn't like, going, being in the rat race and going around in circles, you should start working on the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, in your experience working with dental professionals, Naren, thinking about those that have been more successful as business owners, those who work on the business or work in the business, can you share some examples, or at least your experience with doctors that worked on the business, and what did they do to sort of change the dynamic of the success of their businesses?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share some examples. So there's, dozens and dozens of examples. I'm going to pick and choose. I'm not going to go through all of them. So this one particular dentist reminds me of a great success story. It's a couple. Of course, I've
Mhm.
had several people in the same kind of a situation. So they early on realized, the business of dentistry is as important as dentistry itself. So they divided and conquered. So the wife, who happened to be the dentist, did the dentistry, and they had young kids at the time. So of course, she also wanted to not like kill herself, like working 6 days, 7 days, not seeing her kids. So she said, okay, I'm going to work, X number of days. I think in the early days it was 4 days, and then I don't want to worry about practice. I'm going to have my husband help. So the husband in the early days was like part time, and then they really mastered how to run a successful business. They mastered marketing. They mastered, patient experience, i.e., being relationship driven. They mastered how to hire and manage people. Of course, they created systems, processes. The husband was doing doing a lot of that work because he could focus on working on the business while she spent the 4 days. Remember, they were bootstrapped and not too much, money to back them up. So they had to be really careful with, how they spend their money. So that's how they divided and conquered. I have seen situations. Now fast forward, 6 years later, they have 4 practices. Wife now works only 3 days a week. Kids are doing amazingly well. Awesome kids. Of course, the parents are there for them, and of course, they grew up knowing their parents, as opposed to like not seeing their parents because the parents are so busy. And now there are four practices, and each practice is worth an average of 1.5 million. So they're worth $6 million, right? And of course, their income from each practice is, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they're only working, you know, 3 days for the wife, and I guess 4 days for the husband. So it's not a lot. I've seen other situations where like it's no husband and wife, just a single dentist. A gentleman that I'm thinking of, he proactively said, he literally drew a line on the sand and said, I'm going to work on the business. I'm going to start by allocating 2 hours a week. And he did that for a few months. he started, working on specific things that'll make his business better. He started thinking about, what his business is and what he wants it to be. Like, so he started thinking, okay, if 10 years from now, fast forward, I have an amazing business, what type of a business would I consider amazing? What type of services, what type of patients? He spent a lot of time really visioning out who he wants to be or who he wants his practice to be. Then he started thinking about what kind of people he wants to in that practice. So, one of the things he realized is he wants high quality. So he ended up paying 20, 30% more than what everybody else would pay. He wanted a practice where people loved jumping out of bed and coming into work. So today they only work, like I think in this particular case, they start early and finish early. So by 3 o'clock, they're all done. Of course, the good news for the patients is those who want early morning appointments can come in. And I think they take 2 days off during the week and they have one day in the weekend. So he really created a practice that really met the needs of his patients, his team members, and of course, his young family. And again, fast forward a few years later, he did amazingly well. And he took that single location into a $3 million practice. So, and a classic example of somebody just by starting to put 2 hours a week, working on the business, and then, of course, increasing that time, bringing in additional capability, like additional people to help him, support him for various parts of the business. Today, he's, working, I think 2 days a week of dentistry. He still loves dentistry, and the other 2 days he works on the business, and then he takes a lot of time off. He takes like around 8 weeks off. He travels a lot. Again, when he's gone, the business runs like a clockwork. He built this whole machine and a system that continues to thrive even when he's not there. So anything is possible, right? Like, you just have to make a decision. I'm going to work on the business. I'm going to, spend more and more time. Of course, he also spent time learning and educating himself. So what he knows now is so different from what he knew before. He spent time, building mentors around him and who he could lean on. And, he networked with people. He found good people to work with. He partnered with people. Like he partnered with us for marketing. So he's like, I don't have to worry about this. Somebody else who I really trust takes care of it for me.
That's excellent. No, that's awesome. I kind of am learning more and more about your point on working on the business side of things. And I guess when you look at it from your professional standpoint with marketing, Naren, you work with hundreds and hundreds of practices on marketing. When you talk about this whole idea of working on the business, what are some of your clients doing as it pertains to marketing?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming this is a category that we're working on the business, right? Marketing is on the business.
Yeah. So before I
No.
jump into marketing, I'll give you some examples of non-marketing. That way it's easier for you to get your hands around it. So for example, remember working on the business is anything you do that makes the business stronger, better, more successful. That's what working on the business.
Mhm.
So one example of working on the business could be you are, sitting down and visualizing, where you want to be, 10 years out, right? You are sitting down and visualizing what kind of people you want. You are even spending time talking to businesses like the one that you're visualizing. Hey, emailing somebody, hey, do you mind if I come and have a coffee with you? Do you mind if you have a chat? Can I take you out for lunch? And as you start, then once they are talking to you, hey, do you mind if I stay in touch with you and see, look at you as my mentor and get your input on things? They're like, absolutely. Remember, people love to give back and help. It's just that, like most of us crave being able to help others. It's just that nobody asks because people think, we shouldn't, or if we ask, what if they say no, right? Don't have that mindset. Like go and learn from those people who are like you. So even like building those relationships, learning from those people, to me, it's working on the business. Of course, allocating time and being disciplined about it, because usually what happens is we have 10 things we want to do, and this goes to the bottom of the list and it never happens because the other 90 things always free you up. Treat it as a top thing, working on the business. Just put it into your calendar. I'm going to work on it. Um, Other types of activities could be, now as you get more and more into it, okay, I need a great team. So, what kind of, people do I want to hire? How do I even interview them? What kind of questions do I ask? How do I screen them? So figuring all of that stuff is working on the business, and it won't come right the first time. Again, talk to people, learn, try something. And if it works, the pieces that work, keep it. The pieces that don't, tweak it, learn. So So you're constantly evolving. And of course, after some point, you figure it out, you know exactly how to hire people, exactly how to manage them, exactly how to fire them. So those are all working on the business. The routine things that are like working in the business, like doing payroll, having routine meetings, try to, you know, make it into systems. And then hopefully over time, as you grow bigger, delegate those activities. Again, you have to get good at, you know, delegating. You have to get good at keeping people accountable. So again, when you're figuring all of that stuff, that's working on the business. Um, you know, so let's jump into marketing. So what are some examples of marketing activities where you're working on the business? Remember the definition, anything that makes your business better. So for example, Google reviews, right? A lot of practices struggle with Google reviews. And a practice with 500 Google reviews, you know, let's say 5-star love letter, which is paragraph reviews, definitely is going to do better than one with 100 or not too many love letter 5-star Google reviews. So of course, set it as a goal and then go to work on it. That is working on the business. Why? Because a practice with 500 Google reviews will do better than a practice with, you know, 100.
Mhm.
You know, before and after pictures, right? If you want to build your cases or your, you know, high value practice, patients are not going to trust you unless they know you have helped someone like them. Do you have amazing stories, cases where you show the full face after picture, where you show the, you know, the entire case, outline it, what happened, and then you have dozens of those in different pages for different services. That's working on the business. Again, you do a case once, that case can be seen by thousands of people over the next 30 years, especially online. You know, another marketing activities could you have created beautiful smiles. Why not do a photo day, you know, maybe every couple of years and get these people to show up and get the beautiful smile. Of course, do something nice for them, you know, pay for the makeup person, pay for the photographer, give them some shots they can take home. And in exchange, they give you that beautiful smile, like real stories, real people. Now, hang it on your wall, right? That is working on the business. You don't do it every single day you're doing a photo shoot, but in a couple once every couple of years, that's working on the business. That's I would consider a marketing activity. You know, we like I tell my clients, don't abdicate your responsibility as the CEO. Stay engaged. So, like I strongly recommend all my clients to meet with us at least every 3 months to see where we are, what we need to be tweaked, where we are going next, right? So that is working on the business. You are not doing the work, you're not doing the day to day, but you have a very clear understanding of how a CEO works. You have a very clear understanding of goals that are good goals, and then you monitor it. You stay on top of it. That's working on the business.
Excellent. Excellent. And I know you help a lot of practices with SEO and digital marketing, Naren. You know, I recommend it Equa to all of our clients. I think this is actually a really great way to work on the business from, you know, general growth and marketing perspective. You know, one of the things I know that you offer is a no-cost marketing review. You know, everyone listening, I think everyone listening that hasn't done it should take advantage of it. Naren, can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we spend several hours reviewing your entire digital marketing presence. We look at your competition, we look at your community, we look at what's working, what's not. Two things we do. We give you a report card during this meeting. In that report card, we'll clearly say, you know, this is what you're doing really well, this is what you're not doing as well. And then we'll also give you what do you call a plan. So regardless of where you are, if we believe you can dominate SEO, if we believe, and the way I define dominating SEO is getting into the top 5% of practices that get all the free traffic or 95% of the free traffic. So top 5% meaning you're at least ranking for 100 or more keywords and phrases on page one of Google. So we'll give you a plan if we think we can do that for you as to how you would get there. What are the components of that plan? You know, for example, NAP, it's one of the components. Lighthouse score, one of the components. So where are you today versus where can you be at the end of 12 months? So you are in that top 5%, enjoying an unfair advantage from a marketing perspective. So that's what that meeting is. The link is insuranceuntangledcom/MSM. Insuranceuntangledcom/MSM.
That's excellent, Naren. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you again to our listeners for joining us today on another amazing episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast. I know that this is an important topic. I mean, for me, it has so much meaning in terms of working on the business to make it better and better and better. So thank you for that, Naren. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to share this with your friends on social media. We also appreciate your reviews, as those reviews will help other doctors find us and the content that we provide. So feel free to review us on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And by the way, don't forget to visit insuranceuntangledcom for future webinars and episodes as well. Until we meet again, appreciate all of you for attending and listening today, and hope you have a wonderful week.